So we were told, so welcome to our panel on the digitalization journey in Islamic banking. What are we going to talk about today? And first and foremost, I'd like to thank both our panelists and everyone who are listening to us at this late time of the day. Today, we'll be talking about plans for today and tomorrow in our journey of digitalization and also cooperation with fintechs and also the new regulations and we were talking about some potential opportunities and threats brought by digitalization. And then we were talking about the perception of consumers. First of all, I'd like to introduce our panelists. And so we have Mr. Mehmet Bütün among us today from Vakıf Participation Bank, and also Mr. Mustafa and from Emlak Katılım Participation Bank. Hello, everyone. And also we have Ziraat Participation Bank, Head of Marketing Management Group. Welcome. And also Turkey Finance IT Manager Mustafa Zeklioğlu. I'd like to welcome you as well. Thank you very much. Good evening to everyone. Mehmet Bey. So I'd like to start with you. Welcome once again. Good to be here. So the digital investments of our participation banks have accelerated, have gained momentum as all in the other sectors, and so our banks are very expanding their branch network. All our banks have become part of digital onboarding, and also they're also coming up with innovative products and also services as well. And so they're investing in this type of services and products. That's why our participation banks, what do they target to achieve with these investments? Thank you so much, first and foremost. When we look at the picture in general, and when we make a comparison with the rest of the world, and based on their asset magnitudes, so the participation banks in Turkey are not within the top 15 in the world. And this shows how much distance we need to cover. And then, and also I'd like to interpret this situation within the latest developments. And Turkey is among the top 15 and 30. So we rank between 15 to 30 places. That's why there is a remarkable distance that we need to cover. And so we have a market share of 7% from the financial market, and I believe that our industry has still way to go. And in comparison to conventional banking, our rate of growth and also our rate of growing our market share is higher because our basis is behind, but we need to increase this even further. So this is the general macro picture. And so let's talk about the main factors which can serve as catalyzers to this growth, and growing with technology-based growth, and also diversifying the products and services in participation banking, and also and so providing this diverse products and services to our customers using technological opportunities is very important. All these have become very important for all of us, for not only for participation banking. And I believe that the only topic which will carry us further is the speed of this, keeping up with the speed in digitalization, or even going ahead of. So we have a strategic vision of growing with technology as an institution as well, because you have to build up everything on top of it. And as you touched upon at the beginning, and when we take a look at regulation-related developments, they also support this. For example, remote client acquisition and also approving contracts remotely, and also So there's a shift from manual handling to digital handling as well, and also BRSA and also other regulators are targeting this. They have this as one of their targets, and we also integrate these to our process as well. And also, all the participation banks have started acquiring remote clients remotely, and then and there are some other verticals in technology as well, which have become part of our lives, and they will continue to do so because the regulation is supporting this. Over the recent 2 years, they have so the regulation have in terms of adaptation. So of course we look into these processes. For example, we look into service banking and API banking as well, which is entirely based on service banking now, and not only banks but also fintechs will provide services in the financial institution, financial markets as well. And so these come. So we are heading towards a world in which these fintechs will be more engaged. And so there are some digital only banks. So there are banks which were born in a digital platform, and and we will see many other banks which will be born digitally, and we will see an increase in the number of such digital banks because legal arrangements are also becoming parts of our lives. And also, as you know, BRSA has also published its regulations as well. And so those innovation and also technology producing companies in the financial industry will increase from a single digit to double digit in a very short uh, in a very short time. So the number of these digital banks will increase from a single digit to double digit, and this will also impact competition as well. And I believe that we need to increase the number of corporations as well. This is what the regulation says as well. You should increase the number of your corporations. Of course, there will be some competitions among the banks. However, turning this competition into cooperation and also providing diversified services and products which take customer satisfaction as their center. And so we need to look into those points which can make a difference. In order to make a difference in these sectors, and I think we need to increase the length of times that we spend with our clients, the number of minutes. This could be on digital platforms, and also we can also we can also interact with the clients in a proactive way when they need us. So we should increase the number of minutes of engagement with the clients, and thus I believe that we should become part of the lives of our clients. And as participation banks, and I think this is a sole factor that can carry us to the top of the list. So we already have very strong conventional banking muscles, and in order so strengthening these muscles even further is one thing. However, I believe that we need to train those muscles which aren't working at the moment or which are not as strong as they should be. When we compare to the Islamic finance sector in the world, what do you think about the pace of digitalization in Turkey? So that's what I was trying to say. So so we're not within the top 15 in terms of our on the size of our assets, and also digitalization is part of this as well. And in terms of keeping up with the global trends and be pioneering certain changes, I believe that we're strong. Our participation banks are not lagging behind in terms of digitalization. We have remarkable investments which are continuing rapidly, and I think the reflection of all these investments is more important. So how do all these reflect to our clients? Otherwise, in terms of competency and also in terms of the important attached to technology and also the investments made in technology, we have tons of stories. So we're not lagging behind global trends, as there are certain researches conducted by some very big global companies, and then when we look at the benchmarks in the sector in Turkey, so we are in the Champions League as Turkey. Um, both conventional and also participation banks are in the Champions League. So I believe that competition. So I believe that we can only achieve, achieve a competitive edge by collecting some market shares from conventional banks. So I believe that we should act in a proactive way. And so by increasing the diversity of our products and services, we should be accessible by our clients through all the channels. So the smaller this gap gets, and I think the more we will see the reflections of this as well. So effectiveness is another topic to be highlighted, and productivity is very important as well. And what is Vakıf Participation Bank doing at this point? As you all know, the pandemic has been a catalyzer as well. Yeah, this has become a cliche. However, a pandemic has been a catalyzer for everyone, not only for participation banks, but for the conventional banks as well. And also, because we mainly invest in digital, and we have also increased our investments in digital as well. And also, we are coming up with some innovative products and services, for example, and also our liabilities. And so, for example, acquisition of uh, clients remotely have has already become part of our platforms. So we have started providing those services which we weren't able to provide digitally, or and so we have speeded this up to be reachable and accessible through all the channels. And also the payment domain is a very important field, and also and so we are engaged in certain activities about payment and about digital payment systems as well, and also touchless. Um, and for example, so we have a mobile application turning the mobile phones of our customers to POS devices, NFC, especially in the SMEs, for example, taxi drivers, and also so Android mobile phones, and it can be used as a POS device, and POS costs are also reduced as well. And so we are one of those banks who came up with these solutions among all the banks, including conventional and public banks, and of course, we are so pleased that our clients are responding to these efforts as well. In a world where hygiene is very important, touchless or contactless payment has become very important. And And of course, we'd like to expand and disseminate this even further. And we wish to continue with our innovative investments. And thank you very much, Mehmet Bey. Now I'd like to give the floor to Mr. Mustafa Bezeklioğlu to make an evaluation about the new regulations. Welcome, Mustafa Bey, once again. From Turkish Finance Participation Bank. As you know that so there's a draft of digital banking and also with some new regulations. What do you think is awaiting our banks? First and foremost, digital banking and service bank. Before this digital and also service banking regulation, And I'd like to talk about new regulations which have become part of our lives over the last 2 years. First and foremost, I'd like to extend my thanks to our regulators. They have been quite visionary. They have laid the ground for the industry with the decisions, and so our regulators adapted very quickly to the circumstances brought about by the pandemic, and also those brought by the era we live in. And the most important of this is uh, the regulation on acquiring clients remotely. This is not an ordinary law, and I think it has opened the way for digital and service banking as well. So our customers and clients do not come to our branches in order to sign, provide us with a wet signature. Having a mobile phone and an internet connection, and anyone having a new generation ID card can become a client from anywhere in the world. This is an incredible game changer. And the new regulation has added another layer on top of it as well, on top of this as well, in the coming period, as mentioned by Mehmet Bey a moment ago. And we were seeing banks without any branches at all. We will see banks which provide digital banks entirely. And so in early 2022, this regulation will come into force, and also our existing banks with service banking regulations, they will not provide only certain services or APIs, and so they will not only share their solutions with fintechs, and also they will integrate with them over the platforms and services that they produce or develop, and there will be a higher level of integration as well. And so we will get out of the finance and banking ecosystem, and we will get into the digital ecosystem, which is a much wider and broader system. So in the digital world, the banks, by being part of any sectors, from the, for example, with a solution partner from the, for example, retail industry, and also with a product or service that they create or develop with fintechs. In the coming period, they will develop many different ways of doing business, and they will also engage in corporations as well. So the coming period is a period of integration and cooperation. That's why we are talking about a concept which is like compa- competition and togetherness. And then so so competition will also bring about cooperation both with fintechs and also the other industries as well. Not only so banking, not only banking will be intertwined with all the other industries, and then we call this banking without time and place. So we are heading towards invisible banking. People will not even realize that they are receiving services from banks, and in so in a store or a digital platform, our clients will be using our products and services um, instantly. So in the coming days, a very pleasant competition and cooperation environment is awaiting us. And can we say that the number of super apps will increase in the short run? Definitely.
In terms of service banking, maybe giving a concrete example, is a product which we will launch in a couple of weeks. I can give this as an example, and here we built our own service, our own platform into the loyalty service of a company, and there we have an end-to-end customer service who is in need of financial assistance without leaving that platform, without even realizing that he switched to another platform. He comes to our platform and becomes our customer, and we are defining a limit, And with these limit, the customer can, with the help of QR codes or with some other kind of virtual credit card, you can use it. It's called extra limit. Yes, extra limit. Thank you. And we hope it will be a pioneer for our sector because it's the first. So we have apps inside of apps to give our customers all of the products and services they need on their fingertips. So this is the way the world goes. We will have new players in the market. How will this affect the competition? We talked about it with Mr. Bütün, but what do you think? Yes, we talked about competition with togetherness. So, of course, there will be a competition. That will always be. But in the near future, the rules of the game will change drastically. And the idea of size will change too, because in traditional banking, your size has been defined by your employees and your um, banking offices. But now the size will be measured by the competency of the digital services. And these will be the companies who will make the change or the difference. And technology, this type of technology is used by almost every aspect of the economy because of the hygiene rules. And the important thing is how you are using these applications. And together with the fintech companies and within our ecosystem, building new corporations to give our customers a timeless, a placeless, an easy and fast access to solutions. And I think companies who can fulfill these requirements will be successful in the future. So to be prepared to new regulations, what can you do or what can banks do? To be prepared to regulations I can say that in the last couple of years, we see that our regulators are taking in a pioneering function here to open to even the path for us. So we as bankers should be in close contact with the regulators. This would be my suggestion, because we have a regulator who is keen on receiving feedback. Of course, there are technical requirements and infrastructure, and also process and business models are another need. So the technical needs are the hygiene factor, the readiness of the companies to these technological digital transformation, and their readiness for their infrastructure and also for their digital architecture, because you need to have flexible architecture, and this is a must. This will be a must for digital transformation. And on the other hand, there should also be developed some new ways of using this technology together with new products and services. This is what we as the banking side can do. And fintechs can develop new business models and can have a close relationship with financial institutions, and will try to gain some value here. And from the side of regulators, standardization is very important. The standards has to be defined and published, and we are one step behind to Europe, because PS2, for example, started years ago in Europe, and we're starting new. But at least we did start. The open banking standards, for example, the API standards, are defined now in working groups by the authority of banking, by the banking authority, and the regulator should be able to do some fine tuning in response to these feedback. And this is what we are expecting from our regulators. And this is also our role we're taking in this process. So I want to give the floor to Mr. Kürşat Çetin from Ziraat Participation Bank. Thank you, Ms. Ekman. There has been specific subjects here our colleagues spoke, but I want to talk about the history. What are the milestones which led us here? And banking is a sector which is pretty old, but in our country, and the Ziraat Bank, which we are a part of, was founded in the 19th century, and it was a traditional bank, of course, and now we are standing way ahead of the traditional banking. But the most part of the change has happened in the last 20 to 30 years. And we are following these developments very closely. We talked about the rise of neobanks and the payment systems and new technologies. What do you think is the biggest obstacles in front of the Islamic banking system? Well, like I said, the banking has a deep history, but the Islamic Participation Bank does not. So, but after starting with the 1970s, we see digitalization with automatic teller machines, credit cards, or emails and internet. These are developments in the last 20, 30 years. And in this time frame, the Islamic participation banks has started to take a certain place in our lives. And I see together with the 2000s maybe an acceleration with mobile banking, but I think that this is an advantage for us because participation banking or Islamic banking is a bit more conservative when it comes to their banking system. We have certain control points. We only look at this, we don't only look at this from the banking perspective, but also from an Islamic perspective. So our ways are different to traditional banking. So we are in the financing of trade. So in the buying, so real trade. Yes, and we are selling this in forms of futures. And we think that the banking system comes to the point we had wished for all this time, because there are procedures, there are papers, and this was a hindrance, the hindrance for our customers. But in the digital world, it's very easy to receive documents, for example. You have applications or platforms where you can have this in electronic form, and we have a proxy system. The digital proxy can be used also from the by the customer, and this is also a advantage. So over the internet and over mobile banking, we give our customers the opportunity for a digital banking, for a flawless digital banking, and our customers are also very satisfied because they don't have to go to the bank office. and the documentation or the paperwork is not so huge. So this makes their life easier. And neobanks, you talked about neobanks. There are, of course, examples in the world, and in Turkey we will have also examples for neobanks. But I don't see this as a threat, but as an opportunity. This will also be an opportunity for our own development. We, as the participation banks and or Islamic financial institutions, were never banks with a high number of banking offices or banking spaces. So renting and having high operational costs and trying to acquire customers, it's much more easier to acquire these customers on a digital platform without the need for office spaces. So this is an agile perspective, and we see this also in the population. We had a population of 6.3 billion people in 2000, in the year 2000. Now we have a population of 7.6 and billion people, and now the number of mobile or the internet access devices has risen by the factor of 6. We have smartphones, we have computers, we have smart TV, and we see the same development also in Turkey. 3/4 of the Turkish population is using the internet actively, and up until the age of 65, the use of cell phones is 96%, and most of them are smartphones. So almost everyone in Turkey is carrying a little computer in their pockets. So we see this brings a lot of change with it, and we see this also in banking. So also the retail world is also a threat for banking, because after the pandemic, we see that people do their daily shopping, everything they need for their lives, doing it over digital platforms, even their business meetings. So internet, online sales websites have to do something for their payment structures. And Bill Gates, I want to cite Bill Gates, we need banking, but we don't need banks. And he said it 1994. And now we see that this has come true. Maybe large online retailers will go into the banking system or payment systems, but I don't see them as threats. Maybe we should give up to defend our area, but maybe we should go to the offense and go into their area for retail, for example, because we are financing trade. So this is what we're doing. And we see it also in the online retailers, and they have a marketplace, and there you can have banks either by cooperation or being a part of being a player in some part of it. Yes, but there are cooperations, and we are standing in contact with these online retailers. Yes, you should see this as an opportunity, not a threat anymore, because when you are operating on a defense mentality, that leads to a decrease in competition and competitiveness. So we should change this mentality. And Mustafa Bey also talked about it. When we look into the history in with the new regulation on the 1st of May, there is a new uh, application, but we started it a couple of years ago. Of course, we had to deliver the paperwork per courier, but this was also way we used. But now, after the 1st of May, we can do it with online with video calling, video conference calling. So we don't need the paperwork to be delivered by courier. And we see, and we are doing the investment for technology and also other areas. So opportunities and digital transformation is also an opportunity. And to make better use of this opportunity, should we invest in blockchain or do something about APIs, because our banks have more priorities here. Can you make maybe a short evaluation for the short and medium term? Yes, we talked about opportunities, but to realize those, we need the infrastructure in Turkey as well as in our banks. So in a place where you don't know how you came to this point, the demand is very high because everything goes old pretty fast. You buy something and before you unwrap it, it's already old. So you need a technological infrastructure which has to confirm with this demand. And maybe we can solve these problems with cooperations. We, as participation banks, have an competition between us, of course, but maybe we can maybe we can solve some of our problems with cooperation. And everybody was looking for a technology for themselves. They were developing their technology for themselves. But maybe we can gather our strengths together or forces together to find common solutions. I think that we have to work strategically here. So when you say cooperations, you are talking about cooperations between participation banks. Yes, definitely. Otherwise, each and every participation bank has to find these technological solutions on their own. We, as Ziraat Katılım, have another company, Ziraat Technology, for example, under the same umbrella. But the needs are different. Well, yeah, the POS, point of sale machines, sometimes you went to a cashier, to a convenience store, and then you have 15 different POS machines because there are 15 different banks, banks. And then it changed with the technology, then that you have now a couple of POS devices you can use for multiple banks. So I think we can use the technology more effectively. Otherwise, the transformation will take much longer time. And like you said, the customers have an experience and have their demands that is so high because they don't even go to the bank anymore. But the customer expects at the same time a banking experience which has been defined for him or produced for him, and this will be the future of banking. And the customer always wants more, always wants something better, and we have to be proactive because of these demands. And This journey brought us somewhere else that we expected in the beginning, but we will go to a different area in the future.
And maybe we can talk about a joint data center of all the participation banks. Yes, a data center can be established as well. It's not only about a data center. With the participation bank in the digital world, every product that we use, because we need to we should be placing the products on our shelves in the digital world as well. So developing each product together in a collective way could maybe create a different experience for participation banks. This would also create some level of synergy as well. And however, maybe we can set a joint strategy, not only about a fintech or a data center. And I think we need to act in a more holistic way that would take us to the future. Thank you very much. Now let's talk about. So I'd like to talk about customer expectations as well. Mr. Bey, welcome once again from Emlak Katılım Participation Bank. And in general, our banks see digitalization as an opportunity, and we see that our banks are investing in digitalization. And let's talk about digital products and services, and let's talk about what our clients expect from the banks. And we were talking about speed or an excellent service understanding. But what's your take on this? So there isn't much left for me to say because my colleagues have said most things that could be said. As last speaker, Mustafa put it really, really well a moment ago. So Bill Gates, I think who we should call a wise man. He said banking is necessary, but banks are not. And I think this marks the end of my speech. Joking aside, the new generation, and so the expectations of the next new generation from the banks are very different. So we are trying to make sense of this as a bank as well. And so there was research made with the millennials in the United States about a couple of years ago. But as the world has become a global village, so there is an index called disruption index. So they asked this alpha generation people about their expectations, and the responses they receive are such as I prefer going to a dentist rather than going to the bank. So 71% of the people said I prefer going to they said they prefer going to the dentist. So I'm sure they say going to the bank is painful. So if I ask how many people are going to the bank for their personal transactions, I personally do not go to the bank as long as I don't have to. I think we're part of that generation. This will be the case in the future. And also, there are some striking things in this survey as well. And one third of the people said, I can change my bank within 90 days. And also, there are four leading banks all the world. Among the two digital natives. I have a son who's graduating from university this year, and I have a daughter who is a senior student in the high school. For example, so I was trying to open an account for my son in our bank, and he said that, "Are you selling me the bank? Why am I signing my name this many times?" And things must be fast and very easy. So they expect a fast and easy banking from us, as mentioned by Mustafa a moment ago. These people want to be able to receive all the services from a single place. For example, in addition to banking services, they also want to be able to buy concert tickets and plane tickets as well. So these are super applications. They So I think these banks should be so. And I think we will have to be an institution where we will have to provide these services to these fintechs through APIs. And so the expectations of our new customers profile is really different. However, and both conventional banks and also participation banks are doing their best. I think the geography is important. For example, the digital companies in Hong Kong and Singapore is different than that of other countries. For example, youths in Turkey are close to technology. They were born into it. And however, when we compare with Turkey with the rest of the world, and when we compare it with Europe, and when we compare it with Asia, where do you think Turkey is standing? And Mehmet Bey said, we're in the Champions League, and I don't believe it is an exaggeration. And in terms of digital banking and digital payments, we are very high on the list, especially in for example card payments. So we are in the first place in terms of the number of cards, and also we're in second place in terms of our turnover. Visa Master card and make trials in many countries, and then they publish regulations after these trials, both in terms of digital payments and also card payments. We are in a very good place, but we have many things to do, and we need to think about the blockchain part side as well. The central bank is also engaged in some activities. There are still many things we need to do. However, when we compare Turkey with the rest of the world, we are not doing badly. I think we are doing quite well. However, we will develop even further. But things are changing very rapidly. Things get old before you open the bag. And when it comes to financial literacy and also access to technology, and what do you think about the level of financial literacy in Turkey? When we talk about financial literacy, do we mean how people use their money in a conscious way, and I don't believe Turkey is very much advanced. However, Ipsos has a survey, and so Visa has some efforts about financial literacy. I can share with you the results of a survey. And right before the pandemic, so in researches 2 years ago and 2 years after, so our population with a minimum knowledge, with a minimum literacy of financial affairs is 75%. But what is the minimum level of knowledge? For example, general manager of each bank, for example, talked today, and so we don't have a sufficient or adequate level of knowledge or awareness about saving, and within the family and budget making, the habit of budget making has reached 72%. And so in families with children, we see this habit of making a budget go up to 70%. And also women, the participation of women in decisions made uh, about the budget has reached 80%. And so, yes, we are making progress. And with this new generation, I believe that these levels will go much higher, but we still have a way to go. But we still continue to keep our money under our pillows because despite an American dollar is about 10 liras, this still continues. So we have touched upon the remote client acquisition experience many times. So what are the most common problems encountered by clients during this process? And or of course they encounter certain products, and I'm one of those who was agreed in this process as well. Please do not pronounce the name of the bank. There are more fundamental problems. So there's a device problem. Although we have smart devices, so the hardware and the software is not completely compatible with what we do. For example, they don't have a required level of resolution, and their software is not up to date, and we can face such problems. And also, and So I was agreed because in my so there were 2 points after the chip on my ID card, and so I've tried many banks, but I couldn't become a client of all of them, of these, of any of these banks. And there are some deleted parts, and there are some parts which are not readable. So the communication quality is not the same everywhere, and so you can, so there are some connection problems as well, because the time is quite long, and also the lights are not compatible sometimes. But I believe that the main problem is the time and also customer habits. It's very difficult to change this client habit. It is, Einstein says, it is. Technology can even eliminate, remove client acquisition as well. Artificial banking, so we talked about fintechs and also our investments. And then we said that our banks see digitalization as an opportunity. And last of all, we talked about the needs and expectations of our clients. So to wrap up, we see that digital competence is very important. And then, and also, I think we continue to take firm steps towards our target of having a 15% market share by the year 2023. And then with our strategy, so we talked about drawing up making a digital roadmap, and so we have reached the end of this activity, and then we'll be presenting to our board of directors at the end of this month. And then I hope that it will contribute to to the sector and our banks as well. And we have reached the end of this session as well. And I'd like to thank you once again, and I'd like to thank our viewers as well. Thank you so